Hello, fellas and ladies. It's time to review Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Yes, another musical biopic. Another real movie about a real guy who sings songs for the masses. Time to watch another young actor become a guy who sings. Hollywood keeps prepping, these famous musicians they like into films that show the person behind the music, but also very much the music. And for what it's worth, it's one of the rare non-franchise genres that do consistent business. So, some silver lining, I guess. Freddie Mercury got a big one called Bohemian Rhapsody. Ever heard of it? That obviously blew up and really shot the subgenre into outer space. From there, we got movies about Whitney Houston, Amy Winehouse, Bob Marley, Elton John, Robbie Williams, but as a monkey, and that one does rule, to be fair. Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, Aretha Franklin, Al Yankovic got a little parody film of his own. The Motley Crue, The Pavements. We even got a David Bowie movie I didn't even know existed. And that's my favorite musician. And that's clearly not all. We all know we're getting a Michael Jackson movie whenever they decide to stop breaking the law. 4 fucking Beatles movies, a Replacements movie, Britney Spears got one, Snoop Dogg allegedly is getting one, Ronnie Spector, Madonna, Nat King, Blondie, even Ozzy Osbourne, and he just died. Well, now it's Bruce Springsteen's turn, but instead of a womb to tomb, the movie takes focus on the era in his life when he recollected with his history with his father and recreated his most personal album, Nebraska. The movie stays on the time when he wrote and recorded that. And that is part of what I actually liked about Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, not the guy. It actually feels focused. It actually feels like we're in on this one, part of his history. Him making a very personal album and how he did it. There's been a bit of a thing with music biopics recently where they pretend it's about, this one thing. Like how the Bob Marley movie was, supposedly about Exodus, or A Complete Unknown was supposedly about him going to the electric mode, when in reality both of them were very much this is their history and this is when they died, although Bob Dylan's still alive, I guess. Kind of my problem with musical biopics nowadays, a lot of them don't really feel like they're actually a movie. A lot of the time it feels like they're just spinning a wheel on musicians they like, and it's just oh, I like them, let's go on Wikipedia and make a movie about them. And rarely does it feel like it's someone looking at a story from their life and their legacy and be like, whoa, that's really interesting. Let's make something on that. This movie does feel like that, though. It feels very honed in on this writing process of Nebraska. The movie is very uninterested in mythologizing Bruce Springsteen. It's not interested in his fame, but actually going deep into his psyche. Or at least intended. I don't think the movie fully works, to be honest, but that I can at least say is it's just incompetency. I don't particularly like Scott Cooper. I don't think he's great, to be honest, but I do gotta commend him for actually being I just want to make a movie about Bruce Springsteen. This movie actually is interested in looking at Bruce Springsteen through an actual new lens. One of the reasons I absolutely hated Back to Black was that the movie had no interest beyond glamorizing the tragic story everybody knows and offering nothing new. I'm not going to pretend I walked out of this movie going, wow, I now know Bruce Springsteen differently. Not really. It doesn't really do that, but I do really appreciate the movie wanting to examine him instead of just being wow, look how big of a deal he is. The movie starts kind of that way with this a Born to Run concert, and then it goes right to the ground. We get a couple moments of people going hey, Bruce, I love you, but that's about it. The movie doesn't make him out to be this god amongst men. It's just a guy in this movie. I think that is a very interesting approach. I actually like that we're just looking at a guy personally, through the angle of his music, too, and his most personal moment. The movie is, at worst, interested in an introspective approach to Bruce Springsteen. I gotta be honest, I don't really care about Bruce Springsteen. I have nothing against him. He's just a guy to me. But I did appreciate that this movie really wanted to just be a cathartic, emotional film. It actually felt like Scott Cooper was interested in this story. He picked up the book, read it. Maybe he's already a fan of Bruce Springsteen, but he read the book and was this is a really great story. I want to make it. I love that. That all said, I don't think everything in this movie works, but I don't think, unlike most musical biopics, it's due to a lack of sincerity. It's more that Scott Cooper's just not very good. I think the movie's very dull. I think the pacing is truly, it's kind of hard. I don't mind slow, but I definitely felt oh God, this is just not interesting enough to be this slow. For a movie really clearly going for these emotional stakes, I didn't really feel a lot of them. I don't want to say, it definitely didn't feel distant. I don't want to say that. But I don't think emotionally it was very effective. I didn't really get that much of a perspective that Bruce Springsteen was so broken beyond repair. Yeah, sure, he seemed a little down, but like, I don't fucking know. I wasn't that invested. Add that, plus the fact that the movie is very stylistically empty. It did kind of feel like the movie was running on very little steam and just didn't have enough to make me that engaged. There is something about like artists having freedom to do what they want, and in obvious connection to the Bruce Springsteen Nebraska album. It just wasn't very engaging. You had like a little brief moment of like the big mean executive going, no one's ever gonna read this album. We need hits. But then like that's kind of dealt with instantly. There's a lot of cliches in here. I don't think this is a traditional musical biopic per se, but there are definitely the cliches. Like there's a moment early on that made me laugh where like Bruce Springsteen's trying to buy a car and the guy selling him is just like, I know you, by the way. And Bruce just goes, that makes one of us. Like Bruce drives by his house, like his old house, and just goes like, oh, that's my old house where the bad stuff happened. Or like someone tells him like, you're running away from yourself, Bruce. It's like, okay, man, I get it. The flashbacks are pretty stupid. Like they're all black and white and just seeing his dad being an asshole. And mostly in music biopics, I always criticize them and be like, why do we have to show them as a kid? Like, we already assumed that they didn't pop out of their mother a full-grown adult. This film, it had a purpose, but it did kind of feel tacked on at times, and, like, the black and whiteness made it so funny. Like, oh, it's black and white, that makes it extra sad. Look at this moment in the review. A really sad part is happening because it's in black and white, can't you see? There's also a romance, like, part of the film that I didn't really care for. Like, Odessa Young's very good in this movie, and I don't think they lack chemistry per se, but it just felt like it took so much of the movie's, like, time and not much felt added. Like, I don't know what exactly Scott Cooper is trying to tell us in these moments with this woman that he wasn't already trying to tell us in other, admittedly more interesting ways. It was kind of interesting to see how and where he recorded Nebraska, like just kind of like with some rinky-dink recorder and him and an acoustic guitar. But that's about the extent of the intrigue of this movie comes from, because I just don't think the movie was good enough at making him feel so clearly depressed. The score even was a little manipulative. Like there's a moment, like I don't usually talk about scores in movies like this, but I noticed it just kind of having this big orchestra, like, be sad, Bruce is so sad. Like there's a moment where he's like crying towards the end and it feels like it's supposed to be this intimate, personal moment, and the orchestra's just blaring. It didn't work. It just felt a little off, and I think despite the movie, again, having this interesting approach to this artist, I just think it felt like almost Scott Cooper knew that he wasn't really like working at a grand level, and he just needed to make sure audiences cried. I thought Jeremy Allen White was genuinely excellent. He's in no way transforming, and I really appreciate that about the performance. It really works for what this movie is. It's not a, wow, he is Bruce Springsteen. When he's on stage, it's like, that's Bruce Springsteen. Like, no question about it. Most of the movie takes place away from the stage, and it's just watching him, and he does a lot with his eyes that I feel the most emotionally attached to him, where I just look at him like, man, that guy's broken. More than what the writing does. Like, that's the extent that I get from this character, and that's through Jeremy Allen White. He is just kind of being Jeremy Allen White. Like, it's not, like, totally something new from him. If you're a fan of, like, The Bear and stuff, this isn't, like, it's, what you expect from him, but it really works to this movie. He still has that rugged, like, feel. Like, he looks good in a leather jacket. Jeremy Strong also is pretty excellent. I actually think maybe even better than Jeremy Allen White. I was more I think his character is literally just nothing but like, being a hype man for Bruce Springsteen. But he is excellent. He has a softness about him that I really found endearing. Although again, a lot of his movies just like, he has multiple scenes where he's just explaining Nebraska to his wife, who gets no lines, by the way. Like, he's just going like, I'm listening to this album and he's just expressing a true hurt. I don't understand. The tropes exist in this movie. They do, but I still at the end of the day admire. I do want more movies like in this idea. Not like it, because I don't think Cooper did a good job. I think a more like talented filmmaker could make this even better. Because I think the next time they do a musical biopic, I don't need to know, like, how, like, the public absolutely hated him and then he succeeded. I do kind of want to see, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get into the roots of this artist. Because while I don't think this movie's wholly successful, I do think that there is something about this movie that I can commend, even if it is pretty, like, not really that effective. Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere in many ways does feel like the answer to a lot of my issues with the typical studio musical biopic. And while Jeremy Allen White is excellent and the grounded, introspective approach is interesting, I think the emotional beats just don't land and make the movie feel dull in spite of sincere intentions. And for that, despite some genuine praise I have for the film, I am going to have to give Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere 5 Bruce Springsteens out of 10. This movie is not getting great reviews right now. The one year that I don't doubt a musical biopic is the year I maybe should have. Nothing about this movie feels urgent to nominate. Even Jeremy Allen White, if the movie's not in picture, I don't think there's going to be that much urgency to go with him. He might happen still, nonetheless. But I do think that, like, because he's not big and transforming, if the movie doesn't get picture, which it might not, to be honest, then I don't think he has to get in. Like, screenplay is simply not happening. Like, no. I know A Complete Unknown did, but that was a top 5, and this is not a top 5. They could nominate Jeremy Strong, but they don't have to. He isn't in a lot of the movie, to be completely honest. They can nominate casting, but they don't have to. They can nominate sound, but they don't have to. And that's like it. It's all. It's 2 acting, which is, that's good. And then sound and casting, and that's like it. And because the movie isn't this big, flashy, like, foot-stomping, like, concert movie, and much more slow and introspective, I think, like, not everyone's gonna vibe with this movie. I'm interested to see how audiences take it. I think they'll like it. I think audiences will like it, to be fair. But I do feel like this is on a path to not getting picture, and maybe even just getting Jeremy Allen White in. If that even happens, I might have taken him out. Alright, that's what I got for you guys today. That's enough. Let's grab and share. Bye-bye now.